Once the bar finishes, we are live. Let's wait for the bar to finish. All right. I believe we are live now. Hopefully, once the screen loads. Okay. Okay. Pialino Wampoyowan, Kenishki Initstoke. Hi everyone, how are you all? Naman Timomachstise Tlenika Atlachiwalistli Ome. Today we're going to be learning about verbs class 2. And we're going to learn tlen panok, the past tense. So I'm going to share my screen now. Let me know if any technical difficulties, but you should be seeing my screen right now. And share. And then, oh, this is always the issue. Okay, here we go. You should see my presentation now. And let's do that. Okay, so we're going to be covering the past tense, which is the preterite in class 2 verbs. And it's called tlen panok. And you'll notice that this one is going to have different changes depending on which verb you form the past tense with. Class 2 is the most complex one out of the past tenses in Nahuatl. And so because of that, that's why I covered them last. You'll see that it's still very familiar, but what changes here is that different endings in the verb change how you're going to create the past tense. But for the most part, Nahuatl is very regular on all the verbs, even the class 2 verbs. So once you pretty much know the pattern stays the same. The only time that Nahuatl deviates from these patterns is if those verbs are irregular. There are about 20-ish irregular verbs, but other than that, they're not that difficult. And Nahuatl is very regular, and I personally like that because I don't like irregularities. That's my opinion. But anyways, Nahuatl has majority of the verbs are going to be class 2 verbs. So really, this is the class that is going to cover the majority of verbs that you're going to run into in Nahuatl. And you'll notice that we're still going to be adding ki and ke for plural. And you're probably thinking like, wait a minute, weren't we adding ki and ke last time when we were doing class 1, class 2, class 1, class 3, class 4? And the answer is yes. But now what changes isn't really the ending, but what changes is the other parts right before you change the verb. So that's really what we're going to talk about. There's about 7 different changes. And so there is a lot, and hopefully this class isn't too grammatically crazy. But obviously, if you have questions, stop me in the middle of the presentation and ask me. But I think it's pretty straightforward. But this class is going to be a little bit more grammatically heavy. Also, at the end, we're going to do an audio exercise that I hope goes well. It's not too difficult, but it's going to hopefully, I want to start having you practice listening to Nahuatl at regular speed. Okay, so we're going to start with, of course, just a mini review. Naman, and Yalwaya. This is metaphorical. It's not physical, it's metaphorical. Okay, anyways, so we're going to learn about tlen panok, past tense, class 2. All right, so here we have an example. Ya ki ishmati siwat naman. Ya ki ishmati. So ki ishmati, I don't know how to express it, but this picture expresses it well, I think. But don't worry, if you don't know what it means, I have a translation at the end. So ya ki ishmati siwat naman. Okay. Yalwaya ya ki ishmatki siwat yalwaya. Ya ki ishmatki siwat yalwaya. So notice it went from ki ishmati to ki ishmatki. Okay. Next one, seyok. Ya, oh, I meant to put seaka here, but whatever. It's not going to change anything. Ya kikowa yoyomit naman. Ya kikowa yoyomit naman. If you don't know some of these words, your main focus should be this verb. If you don't know certain words, you could ask me what they mean. But for now, I'm going to not translate them, okay? Ya kikowa yoyomit naman. Ya kikohki yoyomit yalwaya. Yakikohki yoyomit yalwaya. Okay? Se akahia camatzacua naman. Se akahia camatzacua. I don't know how to do that symbol. Se akahia camatzacua naman. Se akahia caltzahki. Notice I'm saying caltzahki, like that. Caltzahki. Yalwaya. You'll notice that in Nahuatl, when there are two C sounds, at least the way that we write it, like the two K sounds like this, the caltzacua and caltzahki, this C is really pronounced like an H, at least in Huasteca Nahuatl. In other varieties, they might just say caltzaki. Well, actually, they wouldn't say caltzaki, they would say o caltzac. But anyways, we'll talk about that next week. I'm gonna talk to you about the past tense in other varieties next week. But for now, just know that we are gonna say caltzahki, caltzahki. Se akahia caltzahki yalwaya. Okay? Se akahia kipilla ixcopincayotl. Se akahia kipilla ixcopincayotl naman. Oh, I can't circle and point down at the same time. Se akahia kipilla ixcopincayotl naman. ¿Cuál? Se akahia kipishki, so went from kipilla to kipishki, ixcopincayotl yalwaya. Se akahia kipishki, ixcopincayotl yalwaya. Okay? We're almost done with these verbs. Ya kiteki, tlacuali, naman. Ya kiteki, tlacuali, naman. And ya kitehki, tlacuali, yalwaya. Ya kitehki, tlacuali, yalwaya. Right? Last one, I believe. I think. Okay? Tlanesi, naman. Tlanesi, naman. Tlaneski, yalwaya. Tlaneski, yalwaya. Oh, this is the last one, okay? Siwat nehnemi naman and siwat nehnenki yalwaya. Nehnenki. Okay, so if you noticed, all those verbs that I gave you, they're all, you may or may not notice, but they are all represent a specific rule for the class 2 verbs. But if you notice, they all ended with ki, because all class 2 verbs follow a general pattern, but something always changes or something gets switched in that verb. So if you notice, ishmati became ishmatki, koa became kohki, caltzacua became caltzahki, pilla became pishki, teki became tehki, tlanesi became tlaneski, and nehnemi became nehnenki. Basically, these are the patterns for all these types of verbs. And you're probably thinking like, oh my God, there's so many rules. Yes, there are, but these are very regular. And these all apply to class 2 verbs. Okay, so the general rule, oh yeah, so what you notice that changed is the endings of all of these verbs changed. Okay, so they didn't stay the same like how you would expect them to. Okay, and this is what they mean in case you want to go back and be like, oh, I didn't understand from the picture what it meant. Okay, you could go back and read this. This ST means something and this SO means someone. So ishmati, to get to know something or get to know someone. Kowa, to buy something. Caltzacua, to close a house, etc., etc. Okay, so the general rule in these class 2 verbs is for all of the verbs, you're going to have the verb. So here we have te ishmati, to get to know someone. You're going to remove the last vowel. So here, the last vowel in te ishmati is the I. So we're going to remove the I. So it becomes te ishmat. And then you're going to add either ki or ke. It depends on if it's singular or plural. Do you have one person or do you have more than one person doing the action? So in this case, I say teishmatki. So in this case, it would mean he or she got to know someone, or yeah, got to know someone, teishmatki, or got to know people. All right, so different endings change for different verbs. Okay, one thing that I want to point out is in class 2 verbs, there are most of them, or there are pretty much the majority of them. All you're going to do is follow this rule. You're going to just drop the last vowel, and then you're going to add the ki or the ke. But then there are certain verbs that end in certain endings that are more special. So there are 7 rules, but the first rule is just this rule pretty much applies to all class 2 verbs. But then there are certain ones that end in certain endings, and those certain endings follow specific rules, which you'll see right now. Okay. So if the verb ends in wa, you're going to take the verb. So here's an example, tlacoa, to buy things. And then you're going to remove the last vowel like you do for all class 2 verbs. So tlacoa becomes tlacou. Of course, it's never tlacou like that. You're going to switch the H and the U. So this A is going to disappear. You're going to be left with HU. You're going to switch the U and the H. So it's going to become tlaco. Okay. And then you're going to add the ki or the ke. So tlacoa is going to become tlacohki. Now, if you remember from class 2, season 2, episode 2, no, season 1, episode 2, on the second class that I taught you that this UH, we don't really pronounce this U. So we don't say tlacouki. Okay, the reason the U is there is because there are other varieties that might pronounce the U. But we will actually just pronounce it like this, tlacohki, tlacohki. Okay, other varieties might say otlaco, okay, or otlaco, like that. But we'll talk about that next week. But essentially for our purposes, for Huasteca Nahuatl, it's going to be tlacohki, tlacohki, like that. Or tlacohke if it's plural, if it's more than one person. Okay, so it's all of the HUA verbs. If it's an HUA verb and it's class 2, you'll notice that if you go in the dictionary, there's going to be HUA verbs that are not class 2, but most of them probably are. So it has to be class 2 and in HUA. Okay, then there's other verbs that end in CUA. These are verbs like caltzacua, caltzacua. Okay, to close a house down, or to lock up a house, or to close the door. Okay, you're gonna do the same. You're gonna follow the rule. It ends in CUA. You're gonna drop the A. You're gonna be left with CU. That CU, you're gonna flip it good. And it's gonna become caltzauk. And it sounds weird, caltzauk, caltzac. But we don't really pronounce it like caltzauk. It's really caltzac. Okay? And then you're gonna add the ki. But if you remember what I told you, when this k and when this c, this k sound, caltzauk, and this qui sound, when these two k sounds come together, Huasteca Nahuatl people are gonna pronounce it more like a hard J, or like an H with a K. So it's gonna sound something like caltzahki, caltzahki. So it's really like this is like an H or a J if you want to think about it like in Spanish, caltzahki, caltzahki. That's how you're really gonna pronounce this. So this would mean he or she closed the door or locked up the house, caltzahki. Okay, so drop the A, you're gonna be left with CU, you're gonna flip it, and then you're gonna add ki, caltzahki. Okay, there's 6, total of 7 rules. So I think we've done like 3. Okay, class 2 verbs that end in ya. So we had that example of that verb pilla, which means to have, pilla. So tlapilla, to have something. Tlapilla, first, drop the A, it becomes tlapi. Think about it, saying tlapi is very difficult to say. It's kind of not easy to say tlapi with a Y, right? So that Y becomes an X. And instead of saying tlapi, they would say tlapish. tlapish. So the Y turns into an X because saying tlapi is not very easy to say, tlapi. So it becomes tlapish. And then you add the ki or the ke. So it goes from tlapilla to tlapishki. Tlapilla, tlapishki. So nama ni tlapilla, right now I have things. Yalguaya ni tlapishki. Yalguaya, yesterday I had things. ¿Cuál? Okay. Verbs that end in ki. So these would be like teki, to cut something. Tlateki, to cut something. Okay. There's also miki, to die. There's a lot of, if you go in the dictionary, you'll find tons and tons of class 2 verbs. But this is just an example. Teki, tlateki. Ooh, I think teka might be another one. I have to look. Okay. We might have to revise it. It might be endings in ki and ka. I have to look it up. Okay, tlateki. So you're gonna remove the I. That QU is gonna become a C. Really what we're doing here is preserving the sound K or the K sound. So if you think about it, it's really tlateki, K, the K. We're just removing the I. And because of the writing system that we're using, we're gonna change it to a C just to preserve the sound. But if we were using the practical alphabet, it would just be a K, so we would just remove the I and it would stay a K. But here, because of our writing system, it becomes a C. And so tlatek, to cut something. And then in the past, it would be tlatehki, tlatehki. This K sound, the C becomes more pronounced like an H. So it'd be tlatehki, tlatehki. To cut things, or he or she cut something. Okay, verbs ending in CI. So if you remember from our class, CI means that you pronounce it like an S. So these are verbs that end in C. Okay, so tlanesi, in Spanish it would be equivalent to amanecer. So this is how you say amanece, or in English, there's not such a good word, but the translation would be like for day to break, for day to break. But basically, tlanesi is amanecer. So for those, you're also going to remove the last vowel. So the I is going to go away. That C is going to become a Z because we want to preserve the sound of the S. So tlanesi becomes tlanes. And then we add the ki. So it becomes tlaneski, tlaneski. Day broke. So like yesterday, day broke, tlaneski. Or amaneció would be the equivalent in Spanish. Amaneció, tlaneski. ¿Cuál? Verbs ending in MI or MA like nehnemi. So to walk, nehnemi becomes, drop the I, nehnem. But if you think about it, saying nehnem is harder to say. So they pronounce it, they turn the M into an N, so it becomes nehnen. And then it's nehnenki. If you think about it, saying nehnemki is a little bit harder than saying nehnenki. Although I'm pretty sure there must be other languages out there that probably have this M sound, but Nahuatl changes it from nehnemki to nehnenki, because I guess it's easier, okay? So if you want to think about it, a lot of these changes, quote unquote grammatical changes, they're really to preserve the sound or to make it easier to pronounce. So if that helps you remember, then other than being like, oh my God, there's so many changes. Eventually you're gonna get used to them from doing it over and over and over again. Or me, I've gotten better because I've seen these verbs in the past tense in many stories. And so I already know what the past tense is. And so I don't really think too much about what class it is. I just know what it is from a lot of exposure, a lot of practice. And so maybe if you think this is too much, maybe you're the kind of person that's like, you know what, I like practice, then I recommend that you read stories, because a lot of stories are written in past tense. And so you'll see all the past tense of verbs. Okay, so here's an example of a general class 2 verb. This is a verb that isn't really modified. So if you notice with ishmati, this TI is not one of those endings. It's not one of those 6 endings that I told you. So all you do for these class 2 verbs that don't fall under any of those categories of endings, they just drop the vowel and add the ki or the ke. So here we have the verb ishmati, to get to know someone or to get to know someone. And so I have nikishmatki, I knew him, tikishmatki, you knew him, kiishmatki, he or she knew him. Tikishmatke, we knew him. Oh, and this could all be translated as her, but I just wanted to keep it short. So Tikishmatke, we knew him. Inkiishmatke, y'all knew him. And Kiishmatke, they knew him. Vale. So now I'm going to ask you to look at these verbs and Xicpatla, Inin, Tlachihualistli. I hope that that's clear. If not, well, we did exercises last week and I hope it's clear now. But I could clarify it because you don't know what you're supposed to do, but I think you're smart enough. Okay. So you can unmute yourself, or actually I'll give you like 1 or 2 minutes. Take this verb nota and then convert it into the past tense and then tell me what these mean. What each of these 6 translations mean. If you know what this verb nota means. If you don't, go look it up in the dictionary right now. Okay? So I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. It's 7:28 my time. So 7:31, no, now 7:29. At 7:31 my time, I'm gonna ask you, or I'm gonna ask whoever wants to participate to do these 6 forms. And I'll give you feedback. Okay? So I will wait patiently. I'm gonna see the one and I'm gonna ask. No, I'm just kidding. The point is for you to be actively thinking. That's the whole goal. Ooh, and I shouldn't have capitalized it, but the program freaking makes me capitalize it right here. But anyway. So let's see who can tell me who can Xicpatla Ica Tlempanuk and who can tell me Tlenki Tosneki.
Nias temastikit.
Okay. ¿Cuál?
And nite noski, which I call someone or I call people.
In the past or in the future or in the present?
Oh, in the past, I called people.
Kena. And this Z is pronounced like pizza. So Nitenotski.
Nitenotski, okay. Tenotski, you called people or someone. Tenotski, he or she called people or someone. Tenotske, we called somebody. Intenotske, y'all called someone. Intenotske, y'all called, or they called someone.
Kena, quali. Just make sure that you always emphasize the second to the last syllable as the loudest. So yeah, Nitenotski, Titenotski, Tenotski, Titenotske, Intenotske, and Tenotske. And yeah, these words can all be translated slightly different depending on what you mean and in what context. So even though I wrote I called someone, it could mean I called people. So it depends who you're talking about. Here this Tenotsky, it could mean he or she called someone, he or she called people, etc. So there's multiple translations. And generally there's no confusion because you know what you're talking about. Okay. Wale. So now, Xicpatla inin tlachihualistli y catlempanok. Nitlapoa. So look at this verb, analyze what it ends with, and then change it. And see who can do this. I mean, yeah. And try to see if you can pronounce it as well, because I know I'm throwing a lot at you and there's 6 new rules. So see who can do this.
Nitlapoki.
Quali? Nitlapohki. Quali? So this is a HUA verb. That's also class 2. So this wa, you're going to remove the A, and it becomes nitlapo, like that. Nitlapo. And then we're going to add the ki because we're talking about I, and I am one person. So it becomes from nitlapowa. And what, Tlenquitos neki, by the way, nitlapowa.
I helped people.
Oh, that's palehuia. Palehuia is to help.
Oh, I read something.
Kena, I read something or I read in general. Quali. So nitlapoa means, this tlapoa can also mean I count. So nitlapoa, I count, or nitlapohki, and nitlapohki could mean I read or I counted, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they use the same verb tlapoa for reading and for counting. Quali? Ashnihkoa. 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 Or Ashnikowa, if you want to say like that. Ashnikowa. Ashnikowa. The Ashnikowa with the aspiration, that's more the Huasteca way, but if you see someone say like, well, they'll probably say Amoa. That's more central. Amonikowa, or, well, Huasteca would say Ashkana Nikowa. But Amonikowa or Ashnikowa. Tlenquitos neki and Keniki moilia ikatlempanok. How do you say it in the past?
Ashnikoki.
Ashnikohki. Juan Tlenquitos neki. Ashnikohki. Tlenquitos neki.
I didn't buy.
I didn't buy what?
Goa.
So what is this referring to?
Oh, I didn't buy something. Or I didn't buy it.
I didn't buy it. Yeah. So this could does mean specifically something, and it specifically means it. Of course, you don't buy people nowadays. So this can refer to people. But this could, depending on what verb or the context, it can mean it or it can mean people. Him or her. So here it means I didn't buy it. I didn't buy it. Ashnihkohki. Quali. Titlachilla. These verbs I added new ones, so they may or may not be in the dictionary, but well, this one should be in the dictionary. So if you don't know the meaning of this verb, you might have to look it up. But titlachilla.
Titlachishki?
Kena, quali. Titlachishki. Titlachishki. Juan Tlenquitos neki.
Chia is to stay somewhere or to wait. No?
That's one of the translations. Specific, yeah, chia does mean to wait. This verb can have multiple meanings, but specifically tlachia has a specific meaning, but chia is one of the definitions is to wait, but here it doesn't mean that.
Okay. I give up.
But
Is
that's
it you waited?
That's a good
Is it you waited for something?
Okay. Kenna, you waited for something? That could be a translation, yeah. This verb does mean you waited for something. It means that. This verb tlachia has multiple meanings, but one of the meanings, if you think about it, when you're waiting on something, you're also observing it. So tlachia could also mean you observe it. Titlachia, you observe it, like you're watching over it, you're waiting like around watching over it. So this could mean like to take care of something, to watch over something, to guard something, to look and watch something. It could also mean to wait for something, although if I saw titlachia, my first guess would be like, I watch something, titlachia. You watch something, sorry. So titlachishki, I would most of the time translate it as you watched something. But it has that meaning of like standing around watching, observing something. So it kind of is related to waiting, if you think about it. And one of the translations, like if I say ni meets chilla, I to you, it does mean in that case, I wait for you. Ni meets chilla. But there's another verb that's ni meets, if I say ni meets tlachilla, it means I am watching you. So it's kind of a little bit vague, but the verb tlachilla, it can mean watching or it can mean observing you, watching, observing you, or waiting for you. But if saying ni meets chilla, I'm saying I'm waiting for you. So chilla by itself is waiting, but tlachilla means watching. That's really the difference. Okay. Camatzacua. Camatzacua. So you may not know what it means, but you know that it's a class 2 verb and you know what it ends with. So how would you convert it? Icatlempanok.
Kamatsaki.
Okay. So kamatzahki. Wan tlenkitosneki. Kamatzahki.
I had to look this one up. To close one's mouth.
To shut up.
Oh,
That's to close your mouth. To shut up. To be silent.
I remember that one.
You want to tell somebody to shut up. You like shimo. You say shimo camatzacua. So mo, remember, means to yourself. So if you would say shimo camatzacua, you're giving them a command to shut up. You would say shimo camatzacua, shut up.
So this verb is transitive.
Huh?
So this verb is transitive.
Kena. This one is weird because you normally don't close other people's mouths. So you can't say like shik camatzacua. I guess if you were to say shik camatzacua, you'd be like, shut his mouth. Shik camatzacua. But camatzacua literally means to shut a mouth. Kamak is mouth and tacua to close. So tacua is a verb that is transitive. And the object that you're doing the action to is the mouth. So the thing that you're closing is the mouth. So tacua is really the verb. The reason why we say shimo camatzacua is because we're saying do it to yourself. Shut your own mouth. Shimo camatzacua. But in theory, there is a space here, and it would be shik camatzacua, close his or her mouth or shut his mouth. I guess you could do that if you tell your friend, like, tell him to shut up, or like shut his mouth. I guess you could do that. So I guess you could put a space here and say it's more, you could add another space and say it could take another object, because when you say shimo camatzacua, the object is yourself. You're the one doing the action to yourself. So it kind of has, I guess, two possible objects here. Okay. But really the transitive verb here is zacua. So this verb is a class 2 verb. It ends in CUA. So we're going to drop the A. The CU, you're going to flip it, and it's going to become UC. And it's going to be pronounced kamatzahki. Kamatzahki. Quali. So he shut his mouth, basically. Here, well, I guess it would be mo kamatzahki. If you want to say he shut his mouth. Maybe I should put a mo here, sorry. Maybe it should be mo kamatzahua. I have to look it up in the dictionary, see exactly how they spelled it. If they made it absolutely always transitive, because there are some verbs that always require you to say mo and some that don't. So let me look it up right now in the dictionary. But when I speak about somebody, I would say mo camatzacua. Mo camatzacua. Let me look it up to give you the right information. Come on, dictionary. Oh, mine is taking forever. Okay, I'll get back to you on that one. Okay, tiquiza. And notice it's with an H, not just without an H. Camatzacua. Camatzacua. Here's camatzacua. Okay, it is. Okay. So yes, this verb does require an object. So it must be like this. Mo. So if we want to say he shuts his own mouth, we say mo camatzacua, like that. So it does require the mo actually. Let me put it in central. Why isn't it centered? Oh my God. Okay, well, it's not centering. Oh my God, it's not centering. Oh, here it is. Mo camatzacua, and it should be mo camatzaki. So in other words, this verb requires you to say who is shutting their mouth. And if you were going to say he or she's, you would shut his or her mouth, you would say ki camatzacua. So there is a way to say, like, I shut his mouth, ki camatzacua. Or nik camatzacua, nik camatzacua. I shut his mouth. Okay. And exit full screen mode. Okay. ¿Cuál? All right, next one, tiquiza. Kenihki moiliai katlempanok and tlenkitosneki.
Iquiske,
Aha. So notice this one is quiza with an H. If we didn't have quiza with an H, if we say tiquiza, it means one thing. And if we say tiquiza with an H, it means another thing. So here it's plural. So it will become tiquisque. Now, tlenkitosneki imin tlachihualistli.
we left.
Like we came out or we left. ¿Cuál? So tiquisque, we came out or we left. And so because of the age, we know it's about us, not about you. ¿Cuál? Impanesi. Impanesi. The definition of this verb is a little bit weird. But anyways, impanesi. It's very specific. Impanesi. So kenihki moilia, even if you don't know the verb, how can you turn it into the past tense? As long as you know the rule, you can do this.
Impanesque.
Impanesque, ¿cuál? All right, if you look this up, you're gonna see that it means for a person, like for a part of their body to show, like if they're hiding and a specific part of their body is showing. So impanesque would be like if you're hiding and a specific part of your body or a part of your body is showing, you would say impanesque. Okay, tlami, tlami. Icatlempanok.
Tlamique,
So this, you're gonna remove the I, right? But you're gonna be left with an M. So you cannot have tlamique because you're supposed to remove the I.
you remove the I and the M turns into an N. Tlanque?
Kena, tlanque. And do you know what this verb means? Tlankitosneki?
Ashnik mate.
Tlami means to finish. So tlanque, they finished. Kuali. All right, so now I'm gonna give you an audio. Well, I'm not gonna give it to you. I'm gonna read to you live at regular speed in Nahuatl. Now you're gonna shinechkaki. Hopefully you know what that means. And shinechili tlenkitosneki. Now I'm gonna say it at regular speed. Not because I know that you know everything, because I know you don't, but more so you could hear what it sounds like in regular speed. And then I'm gonna ask you if you understood anything. You may not, but maybe you caught some words here and there, and maybe you could tell me what you think I said. Now at the end, we're gonna go sentence by sentence, and then you're gonna tell me what it means. Some of these verbs you don't know, like I said, but we're gonna go word by word, and then that way you'll learn new verbs, and then at the same time you'll hear like what a something regular said is like. Okay, so let me pull out the story because I have it in notes. It's not that long and I made it and it's basic. It's a very basic story. Okay, so Shinechkaki. Okay, ¿cuál? Yalwaya kemantlaneski ni Isaac wan nitlacuahki. Ni nehnenki ipan ohtli wan nikitak nowampo. Nictlapalojki wan nechili xinechpalewi. Nonantzin huetzki wan Monequi yas Caltepahtiloyan. Nikinhuicac Caltepahtiloyan. Okay, say it again. And I'm gonna try to do it a little bit slower. Yalwaya keman tlaneski ni Isaac wan nitlacuahki. Ni nehnenki ipan ohtli wan nikitak nowampo. Nictlapalojki wan nechili xinechpalewi. Nonantzin huetzki wan Monequi yas Caltepahtiloyan. Nikinhuicac Caltepahtiloyan. All right, did anybody understand any parts? You should know some of these words. Any verbs, and by the way, there's multiple verbs in here that are different class verbs that are not only class 2 verbs. But did anybody catch any of them? What did you hear? What do you think it's about?
Kema. So I got yesterday when, and then I got my friend, I got my mom, and I wanted, and that's all I got.
And what are those words for everybody else who may or may not?
Yalwaya,
Okay.
Yalwaya keman, Yalwaya keman no Juanpo, no
but what do they mean? I mean, I know what they mean, but the people who are you may
Yolwaya, sorry. Yolwaya is yesterday. Keman when. No Juanpo, my friend. No Nancy, my mom. Juan, I. Monequi, I wanted.
You got everything right except Monequi means it is necessary or it is needed. It does not mean I want.
Needed.
When you want to say I want something, you would say nikneki.
Monequi. I
got you heard, but I said Monequi, and maybe you heard nikneki, so who knows? All right, so now we're gonna go sentence by sentence. So you were right. I did say Yalwaya keman tlaneski, ni Isaac wan nitlacuahki. Some of these I actually covered in the past. Ani nehnenki ipanohtli wan nikitak nowampo. Okay. Nictlapalojki wan nechili xinechpalewi. Nonantzin huetzki wan Monequi yas Caltepahtiloyan. Nikinhuicac Caltepahtiloyan. Okay, so this is what I said. So now we're going to go sentence by sentence. Now, I know you don't know all these verbs, but one thing that you should get used to or being able to do is being able to recognize past tense verbs and then being able to go backwards and be like, what verb is it possibly? And so that's what I'm going to help you with, because I know not everybody can do this. And when I started, it was a little bit difficult for me to do this. So we're going to start here with Yalwaya keman, which you were right, Yalwaya, yesterday, and keman, when. This was in one of our vocabularies in the past. Now you know this verb, tlaneski. So tlenki tosneki tlaneski, who knows?
When day broke.
Kena. So yesterday when day broke, ni Isaac. So we have ni Isaac.
I woke up.
I woke up. Kwali. So Isa, to wake up, and ni Isaac, I woke up. What class verb is this?
Class 1.
Class 1.
Ni Isaac.
So when the past tense of a verb ends in k, it's a class 1. So you know automatically this verb ni Isaac is a class 1. Okay, kwali. 1, nitlacuahki. Nitlacuahki. Tlenki tosneki 1. This one you should know, but maybe you don't.
And
And
I ate.
Nitlacuahqui, I ate. Cuali. Okay, and what class verb is this one?
Class 2.
Class
Amo.
4.
Say it again, Sampa?
Class 4.
Class 4. So you go back one lecture, you'll know that there are only 4 class 4 verbs, like 4 stereotypical class 4 verbs, and qua is one of them. So they particularly have their own pattern, but the pattern is you just add the H and you add the ki. So nitlacuahqui. Qua is one of those class 4 verbs. Okay, or any derivative of qua. So michqua, eating fish, aloshqua, eating oranges. Anything that you put, if you put an object here and you add qua to it, it's going to be a class 4. So nitlacuahqui, I ate. What did you eat? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. You have to, in Nahuatl, the transitive verbs like the verb qua of eating requires you to always say what you're eating. But because we don't necessarily care or necessarily want to know what you ate, we just want to know that you ate. We're saying you ate things. Nitlacuahqui, I ate things. But it's understood in general, and Nahuatl they would just understand it's like I ate. Because it doesn't really matter what you ate. But in Nahuatl, this verb requires you to say what you ate. Okay. Yesterday when day broke, I woke up and I ate. Kuali. Okay. Oh, it's because I can't see all parts because, okay, anyways. Ninehnenki ipan otli wan nikitak no wampo. Okay, do you recognize this verb? Ninehnenki.
I walked.
I walked. This is one of the verbs we did today. Ninehnenki. So this is a what class verb?
Class, what are we on, 2?
Class 2, because
Class
that's
2.
what we're doing today. Okay, so I walked, and where did I walk, or what did I do?
Walked on the road, and
So this ipan otli, there was a class where I talked to you about prepositions, and I didn't really specifically focus too much on this verb ipan, or this preposition ipan. Ooh. But this preposition ipan means at or in. And so you'll notice that these prepositions, they require you to be possessed. So this is saying the road, quote unquote, owns the otli. So ipanotli means like on the otli, on the otli. Who knows what otli means?
Is the road a pavement?
Yeah, I guess it could be pavement. It's very broad, this word otli. It can mean road, it can mean pavement, it can mean walkway, it can mean on the way to something. So on the road, on the way, ipanotli. One and nikitak.
And I saw.
And I saw. What class verb is this?
Oh, 1.
One. And what did you see? Tlentikitak.
My friend.
My friend. So this word wampo is friend. Now other varieties say the word yolikni. It literally means brother or sister of the heart. Yolikni. It means sibling of the heart. Yolikni. Ugh, it's running out of battery. Hold on, let me charge the phone so it doesn't die on me. Okay. Nikitak no wampo. I saw my friend. So I walked on the road and saw my friend. Yesterday. Oh, yeah. Yesterday when I was walking, basically. Okay. Kuali. Niktlapalohki. Wan nechili. Oh, I guess I could have put an H there. Niktlapalohki wan nechili. Shinechpalewi. All right. So let's go with niktlapalohki. So you may or may not know this verb yet. If you don't, you might have to like reverse this one. Reverse engineer this one. So who knows this verb tlapaloa? Oh, F. I gave you the verb. Aquí estás, Nike tlapaloa. F. I messed up. Too quick. God damn it. Tlapaloa. No one knows.
I'm gonna take a guess. Is it I passed something?
Pass is pano.
Oh, pano. Okay.
Nikpanok. So I passed him, nikpanok. I passed him. So it's not pano, but
Looks like palehuia has something to do with help.
palehuia is help, but it has nothing to do with palehuia. But it does look like it. Okay, paloa nimitztlapalos. You've heard that one, right, Adrian?
Cualtito nimitztlapalos.
Tlenquitos neki nimitztlapalos.
I greet you.
I greet you. So niktlapaloa, I greet him or her. Niktlapaloa. So tlenquitos neki niktlapalojki.
I greeted him or her.
I greeted him or her. Niktlapalojki. And what class verb is this?
This be two.
Amo. Amo. What does the verb end in?
A.
Okay. What else
Well,
does
oh,
yeah, I guess it does. What else does it end? What combination of letters does it end with?
The H and then the key.
Okay, so it ends in OA, and all OA verbs and all IA verbs are class 3 always. There's no exceptions. So this is a class 3 verb. So class 3 verbs, you drop the A, and the A becomes an H, and then you add the key. So go back 2 lectures. Niktlapalojki. So this is class 3 verb. Quali. One nechili. And he what? Or I, yeah. He or she. We don't actually know the gender of our friend. And nechili.
And it tells me.
In the past, the present, or in the future?
Present.
Amo. In the present, it would be nechilia.
Okay, Quali. I was thinking about the she for some reason. That drops the A.
Well, okay, yeah. So here it's nechili. Okay, the verb is nechilia. From the ending, what class verb is it?
Class 3.
Class 3. There you go, quali. So nechilia, when you put it in the past tense, well, this is why I thought I should have put an H, but I didn't. It's a typo. But the A becomes an H, and you can add the key or not add the key. It's up to you. So you could say nechili, or you could say nechilihki, and tlenquitos neki.
I think without the H, it threw Adrian off.
Yeah, it threw me off. That was a trick one.
It's a typo. I mean, and you'll see when you read stories, they're not consistent. So sometimes they'll put the H and sometimes they won't. And so you kind of gotta be like, you gotta be like an investigator and go based off of the sound more than the actual writing. This is one of the problems of not having a standardized writing system. So it means tlenquitos neki.
Help me?
They told me?
Told. Ilia is to tell someone something. So nechili, he told me, or she told me. We don't know if it's your friend is a woman or a man. Okay. And what tlen nechili?
Help me.
Help me. Shinech palewi. So here's palehuia. Notice palehuia is a class 3 verb. When you make it a command, the A goes away, becomes shinech palewi. Help me. Wali. I greeted him and he told me. Well, I guess I assume gender here. He helped me. Okay. And he said, help me. And then he said, Nonansin Huetzki, wan Monequi yas Caltepahtiloyan. You might not know this verb yas, but we did cover Monequi in the past. Okay, Nonansin. Tlenki dosneki nonansin.
My mother.
My mother. And what did my mother do? Tlenki chihki nonansin.
She laughed.
This is close, but it's not laughed.
Uh,
So this is actually good that you said that, because you'll notice something right after I tell you what this verb is. So this one is not laughed. Help me, my mom laughed.
fell.
Fell. Okay, so now what? There's the verb huetzca, and then there's the verb huetzki, or huetzi, sorry. Yeah, huetzca and huetzi. Huetzca means to laugh, but huetzi means to fall. Huetzca is a class 1 verb. So that class 1 verb would actually be translated, you would say huetzcak, not huetzki. So huetzca is class 1, the past tense would be huetzcak. Whereas huetzi is class 2, and it becomes huetzki. So you know that this one is not laugh because it's huetzki, and it is not huetzcak. Okay, I know that's a little bit, probably ran out for you a lot, but if it is, rewatch the video and look up the verb huetzca, and you'll see huetzca is class 1 and huetzi is class 2. And because you have to follow different rules on the past tense, you'll follow a different rule for huetzca and huetzi. So they mean something different, and you can tell by the past tense which one it is. So nonantzin huetzki, my mom fell. Okay, 1, monequi. Tlenki tosneki monequi. Nigmati tlamashtiket.
I needed.
It was necessary, it needed to be done. It depends on the context. I did a whole class on Monequi, or at least I explained Monequi, but it means like it's necessary, it's needed, and in some cases it means I need. It depends. Okay, and what is necessary? What is necessary is yes.
That you come.
Huh?
That you come. That you
That
go.
you come. The verb come is not this verb. It's a different verb. But
Maybe
it's related, huh?
go like yeah.
To go, yeah. So this is the verb go. So the verb go is irregular, but in the future tense it's regular. So yeah becomes yes. So Monequi yes, she needs to go. She needs to go. Monequi yes. Notice that after this verb monequi, the second verb is in future tense. So if you go back a couple of classes, you'll remember that anytime after the verb neki, the second verb has to go in future tense. So if I want to say I want to go, I would say nikneki niyas. Nikneki niyas. I put the ni in both spots. Nikneki niyas. I want to go. Here it's saying monequi, it is necessary, and yes, so she needs to go because there's no prefix. We know it's about him or her. Because we're talking about her, my mom, we know we're saying she is the one that needs to go. And there's no prefixes because we're talking about him or her, and him or her doesn't require prefix. So it becomes monequi, yes, she needs to go. And where does she need to go? Caltepahtiloyan. What is Caltepahtiloyan? Tlen meaning tlamantli.
Hospital. Patli is medicine, right?
Yeah, there you go. Hospital, or somewhere like to be treated. Kuali. So if you know the word patli, which you do, it means medicine. You see right here, the word patli is in here. Okay, so this word is broken down as pahtia means to cure somebody. Pahtia. And tepahtia means to cure someone. Tepahtia. And then this part is loyan is a classical construction, but essentially you'll learn that loyan means a place where things are done. So tepahtiloyan means place where people are cured or healed. And this cal, it just means building or place. So this is kind of a reduplication we don't necessarily need. You could just say tepahtiloyan, but to make it clear, they might just say caltepahtiloyan to say hospital or a place where people are cured, like a medical facility. It's not specifically hospital, but you probably understand it's hospital because she fell. All right. My mom fell and she needs to go to the hospital. All right. Nikinwikak Caltepahtiloyan. Nikinwikak Caltepahtiloyan. So this is the last part. I know it's a little bit more difficult, but I want you to get more used to listening to Nahuatl. So what is this Nikinwikak? Ashaka Kimati? No one knows?
I know the ni and the kin, but the huica, the huica, I'm thinking for some reason like singing, like huica.
Yeah, so this verb actually, huica, if you go look it up in the dictionary, there's huica 1 and huica 2. I don't know which huica is which, but huica, they both mean, they have two meanings. One verb is to sing. So nikin huica, I sang them. Does that make sense? I sang them?
Yeah.
No. So this is the other meaning. The other meaning is I took them, like I carried them or took them. Los llevé. So I took them. So kanin nikinwikak. Kanin nikinwikak. Where did I take them?
To the hospital because it has patling.
Caltepahtiloyan. So nikinwikak Caltepahtiloyan. I took them. Ooh. No. I took them to the hospital. Okay. Oh, I guess that's, wait. Is there a repetition? Why is there a repetition? Okay, that's clearly a typo and that shouldn't be there. Or not a typo, a copio. Hold on. I copied a slide I shouldn't have copied. It was a copio, not a typo. All right, hold on. Let me remove that slide before I forget to remove it. All right, so that's it. Tlasukamati miak. Delete slide. That slide shouldn't be there. I'm gonna check to see if there's any Tlatlanilistli in the chat or in the YouTube video if anybody's watching me live. So let me stop sharing the screen because it gets in the way. And let's go to the chat. Oh, clearly that's not. Let me see. Do you all have any Tlatlanilistli? Where can I find the homework? Okay, so you can find the homework on for every time that I post the lecture on YouTube, I post a link to the class slides, and you'll see that on the class slides, there's also a different folder that has all the class homework. It's called Chantekit. So basically, when I upload this video, which will be today, go into the description and then click on the link, which is basically a Google Drive link, and then it has the homework there, and there's a homework with answers. So I recommend that you do the homework and then look at the answers if you're like, what? And if you have specific homework questions, you could ask me during this section of the class. Or I always have a question section. And then let's see if anybody has one on YouTube. Piali Temachtiket. Shiseli Sewei Tlapaloli Ipan Portland, Oregon. Okay, so someone says receive a big the Tlapaloli greeting. You know the word Tlapaloa? Well, that verb Tlapaloa in noun form is Tlapaloli. So Tlapaloli is a greeting. So Shiseli said, Wei Tlapaloli, receive this big greeting. And then the person put Ipan Portland, Oregon, from Portland, Oregon. So Piali Carlos, do you have a link or something to join the Zoom? Okay, yes, you can join the Zoom, but you just have to email me so I can send you the link with all of the instructions and the password and everything. Just know that since we're like intermediate, if you feel behind, it's because I've done a lot of other lectures before this, and so you may feel lost. But if you don't care, I mean, I don't mind. It's really up to you. If you just want to be basking in the sounds of Nahuatl, then come on down to Paquilisli teaches Nahuatl. Okay, do you have, okay. Well, it said too, hola hermano, esto es verdaderamente interesante. Gracias. Is once a verb? Is in the past tense, does it mean was? I think you mean, James, do you mean onca? Onca?
Yes, yes, I misspelled it. Onca.
Oh, okay. We never covered onca. Did I cover itztoc and ultoc? I don't remember.
Yes.
Yes, okay. So I didn't cover itztoc and eltoc in that lecture, but I should have. But basically, there are three verbs to say there is something in a physical location. One of them is itztoc. So itztoc is for animate objects. So you say a person is in a location or an animal is in a location, you use the verb itztoc. If you want to say an object is in a location, you use the verb eltoc. But then there's another verb called onca, which means it exists or it is in a location. And so onca means it is in a location. So you could use that for animate or inanimate. So you could say onca eyi masewalme, there are three people, or you could say onca eyi amoshli, there are three books. So onca is either or, but it means something exists or something is in the location. So it does have that meaning of exist as well. So like if you want to say, I don't know, light exists, you would say onca tlawili, light exists. This verb is a class 1 verb. So if you want to say it in the past, it would be oncak. So oncak eyi maserwalme, there were three people. Oncak eyi amoshli, there were three books. And it's understood as like a location or that they existed. It kind of depends on what you're talking about. So it does mean was, but was in a location. Or was in the sense of existed.
Tlazokamati.
Ashlen.
Is that equivalent to the Spanish word I?
It's equivalent to I. English doesn't have an equivalent, but Spanish has I. So you say I un libro, I una persona, it's onca in Nahuatl.
So for the example you provided earlier for tiquiza or tiquisque, is that root verb? Is that just quis, Q-U-I-Z?
Yes. Next week, I'm going to talk to you about the root of verbs, because I'm going to go over a general overview of the past tense, and I'm just going to have a story, but essentially I'm going to tell you about the root of a verb in the past tense. The reason that root matters, which would be the quis, is it determines how you form other tenses. So you'll learn like conditional, other more specific tenses, and in some situations you use the root of the past tense, and in other situations you use the present tense as the root, and you pretty much have to memorize each one, but you need to know what the root, the past tense root that I'm talking about. And so basically next week I'll talk about that. Yes. But yes, the root is quiza, of quiza is quis in the past. And also to form adjectives. So we'll talk about adjectives after, not this one, but the next one. Other questions?
Ashkana, pero Tlazokamati, for reading it in normal speed, because you could barely catch little words, and then breaking it down, that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. I can tell you that when I first started, I would watch Nahuatl videos and be like, oh my God, this is not Nahuatl. Because they were speaking in regular speed. And you know, when you don't know a language, you think like they're saying all these extra things, but it just means that you don't know enough vocabulary, and you can't pick it up fast enough. Eventually, you will, and you'll know enough vocabulary to be like, oh, they just said kaki, and I know kaki, but they just said it so fast that I'm like, oh, shinech kaki. Like they say it much faster than you think. And so they are saying now what words, they are saying words you know, it's just they're saying them fast and you're not used to hearing it yet. But eventually your brain will be fast enough. And now when I hear it, I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly what they're saying, and they're speaking at regular speed and normal, whatever they're saying. I'm like, I know exactly what you're saying. Quali. So you will get there. It's just a process of learning. It just takes time and practice and memorization of vocabulary. All right. No, if no other questions, timoitase chicueyok. Okay.
Timoitase tlasokamati.
Ashlen.
Tazokamati.